Greetings, 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 everyone in Facebook world. Welcome to the exploration series. Today's series is a continuation of our talk from last week. So we're going with exploration of love, part two. Just because from the feedback I got from you all says that I left some things out, and the talk needed to be a little bit more. So here I am. You ask and you shall receive. So today I have Miss Jamila, Miss Angel, Mr. Mojave, and Mr. Ken all ready to say their piece and to get deep into these beautiful streets of love. So let's get down to it. The first question, you all know how we do this. I ask a question, you give me your thoughts, concerns, questions, comments, and no holds barred. We're not looking for the politically correct answer. We're looking at the truth at this point. It's all about learning and teaching. So, my first question, when it comes to love, of all the feedback I got from last week, um, the okay. So, with everything that we found out from last week, so the first question that I have in this continuation. So, tell me what is your definition of being in love versus I love you? What is in love for you? What does that feel like? What does that sound like? What is what is that difference? Um, so Jamila, we're gonna start off with you.
Of course you are, because you know I'm sharing and all that good stuff. Uh, uh, being in love for me is the work. Love is a natural thing to love a person, just as sure as it is, unfortunately, a natural um, taught taught thing um, to hate. It is a natural thing to love. The first thing we learn to do is love. Being in love takes work because I can be completely in love with you and not like you at the moment. So it's a little bit more work, but more than just my heart, my soul is still attached and connected to you. So for me, being in love is definitely being willing to do the work of loving a person.
Okay, okay. Angel.
Mm-mm. I mean, you have to. I mean, I'm only. Mm, mm. Okay, love is strong feelings in a positive light for someone. You want to see this. You want to see them succeed. You want pretty much how much you love yourself, and what you want for yourself. You want for that person or whoever that may be. As far as in love, I would rather not speak on being in love because apparently, I guess I don't know anything about it. Too young, so we'll just skip right over that part for me.
Well, it is not even about whether you've been in love. What do you think being in love feels like? What are your thoughts and guess upon it?
I don't know what it feels like. Let's say that.
Okay.
I wouldn't. I really wouldn't know what that feels like. I guess until it hit me in the face, and I probably still wouldn't know what it is.
Fair, fair. Okay, Mr. Mojave, let's hear your thoughts on that.
Um, the active part of being in love literally means the connection that you share with that person is active. You are constantly moving within the scope of your relationship to build with each other on a constant basis. You are communicating, you're constantly active in being in the active state of loving each other, taking care of each other, being in the same uh, space and holding space for each other and growing from that place that you hear like love. A lot of people say like, oh, I love this person, everything else, but love is actually stronger than that. Love is actually the consistent care of that particular person. Their needs are being met, emotionally, physically, spiritually. You're constantly in movement. You can't think of your space or being without them because of the love that you share. And love builds things. And so when you're with each other, you're constantly building, your relationship, your communication, your interactions, you're planning, you're putting things together. You're constantly like a puzzle that's always being built over and over again. So that's my idea of being in love.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Coleman.
So to me, when I think about love, I think about I think about a romantic journey between two people. And the biggest thing I say there is that it's a journey because a lot of people think that they're in love, but if you and that person that you elect to be in forever love with can be together and then just separate and there is nothing there that binds you to that person, then you may have loved that person. And that's why most of the time when people divorce, you hear, yeah, when I was with them, I absolutely loved them. But I don't believe you're in the process of being in love unless you were with that person and you were willing to take that journey. And that journey takes a lot of different faces and it comes in a lot of different facets. And that is that ride or die complex you have for that person that you're with. So it means that regardless of what happens mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, family, whatever area you decide you want to add to the picture, you two are in this together from start to finish. And I think a lot of times people get wrapped up in the fact that love solely ties to just a feeling, but that feeling can't be shared between two unless there's an action that validates it between both individuals. So I think once you wrap all of that together, you get the overall encompassing picture of what love is. At the end of the day, love is a romantic and spiritual journey between two people that leads them down a road of lifelong passion, success, and just enjoyment in dwelling between two individuals. That's my definition.
Okay, and I guess for me to bring it up is the difference between I love you and I'm in love with you is the amount of work involved. I can love you and care about your well-being and care about the things that are going on in your life. And I do really love you, but in love is a different level of intimacy. I want to know your deepest secrets. I want to be there, good, bad, and different. Our desire and our work is a whole different level if I'm in love with you. If I'm in love with you, we're not going weeks without talking because I'm in love with you, and that's not what my heart is going to allow to happen. So I think there is the work, a level of work involved is one of the major differences between I love you and I'm in love with you. Because I'm in love with you, like Ken said, is a romantic part of it, and it just means different. So I'm with you on that one. Okay. So my next question, which is going to kind of exclude Angel because she already gave me the answer for it. Um, have you truly been in love? Not in lust, not I love you. Have you had that moment where you were truly in love, whether you're still there or not? But have you had that moment that you were truly in love with someone? How did you know it was in love? How did you know that it was this new level in your life? Um, ladies first. Go ahead, Jamila.
I knew I was in love when I was willing to be there to his last dying breath. It was, and I know we're going to dive off into this a little further later, but it was in some people's eyes a very toxic relationship. But knowing and understanding who he was in my life, I knew that I was in love when I was willing to be there to his dying breath. And it was the work. It was being able to have the closure that we needed between us. Um, it was for the time that we did share together. It was constant work. It was, and it was, it wasn't hard work. It was, you know, making sure that we were in tune with each other, making sure that, not only was it us time, but we both had children. So there's family time that's involved too. Being a part of my heartbeat also involves um, being a part of my children's lives as well. So those things I can genuinely say, um, experiencing being in love in that place and space, my love for him will never die. My love for him will never die, because that was a in love moment for me.
Okay, Ken, let me know what you're thinking.
Miss Ma'am, I got big messy energy for this one. So let me just throw this out here real quick. Number one,
Here we
Give
go.
it to me, Ken.
and
Give it to me.
and brothers, take note of what I'm about to say, because I don't always get overly. I don't normally come out of uh my eyes off. And for those that don't know, so I'm a certified mental resilience teacher, and one of the things we talk about is your eyes off. So your eyes off is your individual zone of optimal function, meaning that this is the place where you are at your most calm or at your most comfortable, to where you can perform at your exact best. I'm about to jump all the way out the window. So here we go. Gentlemen, let's talk about what love really looks like. Number one, gentlemen, if you want to know if you're in love with somebody, let me drop these on you. Number one, gents, you know you are in love when she becomes a priority. Now listen, pay attention, listen very, very carefully. A priority is critical. It is super critical. As a young man, I cared a lot about myself. I was greedy with my time. I was greedy with my efforts. I was greedy with my energy. Before I took the time to give a woman my priority, Madden came first. And for a lot of you, unfortunately, you're in relationships, think you're in love, and Madden is still your first love. I'm going to tell
Preach,
you right
preacher.
now. I'm going to tell y'all, these are facts right now. At the end of the day, if the priority is not her, if she calls and you still on level 6 and you say, hey, babe, I'm almost done with this game. Give me this. No, pause that motherfucker. Pause it. Take that time. Communicate effectively. That would be my number one. Brothers, if she is not a priority, I guarantee someone else will make her a priority. So the number one thing I'll tell you, if you are in love, you will make that a priority. That is my number one for you. My number two is that you desire. Now, this is very important. So when I was in college, I think it was my freshman year at Fayetteville State, Raheem DeVaughn came to school and performed for us during homecoming week. And Raheem DeVaughn has a song called Desire. It's from his second album called Love Behind the Melody. Phenomenal album if you've never heard it. But on this song in Desire, he lays it out so clear. When I say that he desires, it means that I want you by my side. I want you in my soul. I want you on my body. If you are not in a position where you are not feeling that throughout the day, and I'm not saying the whole day, because we all have stuff we got to do. Matter of fact, I'm going to move this here so y'all can look me in my eyes while I'm talking. Listen to me. If you do not feel the love, the desire, if you do not listen, brothers, if I do this, I taste my wife. Facts. Listen to me. If you do not feel a desire for the woman that is in your life, there's already a problem there. You are not in love. You are in potential. I potentially like this person. I potentially see a future. I potentially believe that this person could be someone that could be in my life. But until you are in a position where you crave that person permanently, where you do not want to let them go, they are stuck to you like glue, no Sean Paul references involved, then you probably ain't there yet. And you are probably still assessing whether this person is someone you want in your life. The next thing I'll tell you, men, when you are in love, you are transparent with the woman that you are with. Let me back up. You are transparent with her from top to bottom. There's no secrets unless it's a surprise for her. Let me say it again. There are no secrets unless it is a surprise for her. Now, I'm not talking about the emotional baggage, because some of us feel what we feel and we kind of tuck it away. It's just a part of who we are. What I'm talking about is if you make a mistake with something, you do something out of pocket, you do something that she would not be satisfied with, you don't try to hold it. When I talk about transparency, it means that if you see something and you don't like it and you know long-term in your relationship with that individual that it can damage you, if you care enough about your relationship and you see that it's going to damage long-term, you will do what you have to do now and be open enough because you care about protecting the relationship more than you care about protecting your damn self. So being transparent is another thing. I'm going to add one more, and I promise you I'm going to cut myself off. The last thing I'm going to tell you is, gentlemen, when you let go of your pride because of a woman, brothers, I had a lot of pride, a lot of pride. I was feeling myself. I was high on my horse. I just knew that I was everything. And then I met my wife, and she became everything. And when you find someone that is everything to you in your life, you will come out of yourself and everything won't just be about you. And this almost goes back to talking about priorities, but it's a different thing. When I talk about priorities, we talk about you being in the midst of something and being willing to make her on equal level with you, if not higher in certain situations. When I talk about coming out of your pride, it means that even though you feel some type of way, something is wrong, you, at the end of the day, I ain't going to bed mad. I'm not finna be upset.
Yes, that part.
You need to come out of yourself. And when you can come out of yourself, because what you have matters more than, let me say this. This is very important. Let me turn this one more time. When what you have, meaning between the two of you, when what you have matters more than what you are, congratulations, my guy. You there. That's all I got.
Yes. I think he wrapped some stuff up. I have nothing to add.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So my next question is, while we're talking about all these things, and he hit on some of the things I was saying. So we have these ideas of what love is. So now my next question becomes, what do you know about toxic love? Whether it's a relationship, whether it's parents, whether it's cousins, whether it's family, whether it's friends, what is toxic love?
Me first.
What is it? How does it manifest itself in your life or in people around you? Miss Jamila, since you off foot, we're gonna let you usher this question on in.
Okay. So for me, love for me in the beginning was toxic. Um, from the time that I was a child, it was toxic. I grew up in an abusive household, so it was toxic. Um, and then transitioning. So because that is the majority of what I saw, because that is the majority of what I saw, I transitioned as I went into the dating world, and I was toxic. I was toxic love AF. Okay. Um, but and then I got married, and I was still toxic. It wasn't it I had done some work, I had done some self-work. Um, but generationally we say that, typically if a man is abusive, then his son's going to be abusive, and so on. And it's that generational curse, right? I was the abuser because I was toxic, because I was constantly on the defense. I was constantly on the defense in terms of, you're not gonna swing at me. We're not gonna do that. I will fight you first because I know that you're not gonna hit me. I know you are not about to come for me. So I was the abuser. Now, coming out of my marriage, again, I had to go back in and do some more self work because I didn't want that to flow into any other relationship. So when I got divorced, I didn't date for 2 years because it was important that I didn't walk in there into another relationship with that kind of baggage, with that kind of toxicity, and and usher in the burden of somebody else trying to fix me, trying to heal me, trying to love me past my pain. And and that was hard. It was really, really, really difficult to face yourself and say, I am the toxic person. Um, and then moving forward, I mentioned that I was in what some would call a very toxic relationship. It was his cry for help. And because I recognized what that cry for help looked like, I was willing to go down into the trenches with him and work with him and fight for him and love on him as hard as much as he loved me. He fought me because I'm trying to work with you. I'm trying to work with you. It wasn't that his love was intentionally toxic. Sometimes people's love is just intentionally toxic because they're selfish, because they are self-minded, and it's all about me. And if I'm not getting all the attention in this relationship, then I don't want anything else to do with you. But for me, I was willing to go in the trenches because I had already done the self work for myself, and I knew what that looked like. And even in the midst of tears and crying and going through all of the madness of that, you know, I learned and I grew from that as well because, okay, I know what a toxic relationship looks like from my end, but now I know what a toxic relationship looks like when I'm dealing with someone else. And I think that is tremendously important. Um, it, you can definitely have toxic love, and and that relationship was as pure and as honest as it was still incredibly toxic. And though, as I said before, I will always have my heart and my love will always be a part of who he is and who he was. But I recognize what it is. And then again, after that relationship ended because he had transitioned from life to death, I again had to go back and do some self work because you don't want to transition that toxic situation into another relationship. That is how you bring about healthy love out of toxic situations, for me, in my personal opinion.
Okay. Okay. Angel.
All right, let's just keep in mind that I am still young, I'm still learning, I'm still observing. So let's get into it. All right, so my viewpoint when it comes to toxic love, anything toxic. I can honestly say I was in a situationship for about a decade. And I didn't realize it was toxic or damaging to me or even to him even until it actually ended. So let's say he would go back and forth between me and an ex, years, just going back and forth between us for years until I guess, you know, he decided to make a very much decision. In my mind, I thought I was in love with this young man. I do love him, but I'm not in love with him. I wasn't in love with him per se. Now I'm in a place where, you know, I can hear his name and be perfectly fine. When it comes to toxic relationships, because I've seen friends who are in toxic relationships, whether it's an abusive relationship, mentally, verbally, physically, I've seen it all. And all I can really say is, when it comes to those type of relationships, everybody's like, oh, it can never be me, it can never be me, it can never be me. You never know until you're put in that situation. And trying to crawl out of it is the hard part. And the even harder part is trying to relieve your mind of that toxicity, whatever, however that word is pronounced. Trying to relieve your mind of that toxicness so you are healthy enough to go into your next relationship, friendship, situationship, whatever it is, however you do it. Like I said, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. I personally learn from watching other people, listening to other stories. You know, sometimes I gotta fall and bump my head on my own. That's just life, it happens. So yeah, just, you know, just take what I say with the tiniest grain of salt, because I don't know too much yet. I'm just here to listen and learn.
10 years, I would say that you learned some things. I would definitely say that you've learned some things.
I would say that if when the whole thing started, it started off as a friendship that we became best friends. Like, we never actually crossed that line officially, but the feelings and or the attraction was still there. And even though it was 10 years, think about back when it started, I was like 14, 15. I don't know anything. I'm a baby. I'm still a baby, but I was a baby then. So it's,
yes, but you learned what to look for and what red flags look like.
I did learn that, and I also learned that that's how I learned I really wasn't, I'm not gonna say that I was in love with him. I would say that's really my first attachment to somebody, or an attachment to somebody that was strong enough to make me feel like I was in love. So like I said, I'm still learning and bumping my head. 10 years, that was baby years.
That was
I was a
beginning.
baby.
Okay, Ken Coleman. Oh, did we lose Mr. Ken?
No, Mr. Ken don't know how to keep his don't know how to unmute for the third time tonight. So all right. So I'm having issues showing my screen right now, but here's what I will tell you. And I was talking with some of my frat brothers the other night that have been having some difficulties in their relationships. And I said it black and white like this. Toxic love is similar to the coronavirus. And I know this is some people are like, that sounds kind of out of pocket. And I'm like, bear with me. Toxic love to me is kind of like COVID right now, because it's so lethal that people have to wear a mask. I think we're at a point right now where people get into situations and they come with so much pain and with so much baggage that they personally have not dealt with, that you bring this into your relationship and imagine your goal in the relationship. You just want to be happy and you want to be healthy in your relationship with that other individual. The problem is that people come in with so much pain and so much strife. They have personal things from when they were younger they never dealt with. They come out of relationships and they jump into new ones, and the relationship is a rebound, and half the people don't even realize the person they're dealing with is a rebound. So you come in with all of this anger, and because you didn't learn this person, now you're having disagreements, but you signed up for a person. It's like signing up for, it's like going out and trying to buy a product and expecting that it's going to cook your food, but you use it to work on your car. You sign up for something that does not meet the purpose of what you were looking for. And what happens is that we come with all this negative energy because we don't understand what we signed up for. And it's just negative. And what do we do with these relationships that start out healthy? We begin to fill it with poison. And over time, it gets more lethal and more lethal and more lethal. And before you know it, your entire relationship is infected. So what happens throughout the process of that relationship? People start putting on masks. We start concealing how we feel. We start concealing who we are. We start concealing everything about us. And eventually you get to that point where you just can't take it anymore. And before you know it, everything is toxic around you. And the worst part about it is that there's a lot of people that get into relationships and the relationship is so toxic that the only way that you can heal yourself is by bringing people into your relationship who don't even want the best for you and your relationship. So now you out in these streets giving somebody all the details of what's going on with your relationship, and all they're doing is taking notes on everything that you said. And you know what? Here's, oh, by the way, let me come out of pocket real quick. Message. If you're in a toxic relationship, please don't be out here telling folks your business, because some people don't care about the problems the person brings. They don't care about how negative the person is. All they care about is what they look like when the clothes come off after 9.
Teach the people.
So I'm keeping it a dead honest buck with you. Some of you, and I'm talking out in TV land. Hi there. I love y'all. Some of you, and I'm not saying all of you, but there's one person in here that I know probably is doing this, and I know a hit dog will holler, so I'm waiting for somebody to put woof woof in the comments. So there are some people that when you get into these relationships, you are going to go and you are going to go tell somebody your frustrations. Stop doing that. Stop it, because you are going to make it worse. Because here's what you don't know. You don't know where everyone's loyalties lie around you. You assume you know. And the truth is, sometimes the people that are closest to you are preying on you, not just going to prey on you after you break up or as they try to take what you have, but they are praying that you fail. They are praying that y'all break up.
Yes.
They are praying
Yes.
that you do something wrong. They are praying
Yes.
that you give them intel on what's going on inside of those sweatpants when he came over to the house the other night. I'm telling you what it is. You ain't got to like it, but you're going to respect it tonight. So on that note, what I tell you is 2 takeaways. Number 1, when we talk about toxic love is so lethal. People come into it wearing masks. And while they're in the relationship, it gets more poisonous over time based on the actions of those people. That is number 1 when we talk about what it is and how it goes about. Now, what I will tell you is you do not off-gas a toxic relationship by taking your problems to other people unless you are going to see a counselor, you are going to see your pastor. I would not recommend you taking it to your friends, because 9 times out of 10, you may have 5 friends, but I guarantee you amidst 5, there is always 1. That's all I got.
If you don't mind me asking, what fraternity are you a part of?
Iota Phi Theta.
All right, Mr. Brown, welcome to the panel. Your thoughts on what is toxic love?
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me up. So now I just want to say on the topic of toxic love. Now, so one thing that I do know when it comes to toxic relationships, the number one thing that needs to happen is once you identify a toxic relationship, the first thing that you need to do is actually get away, you know. But now here's the thing: if you cannot get away, there are things that you need to do in order to preserve yourself and others, but mainly yourself. And that is knowing who you are dealing with and building a script around that to navigate around that. Um, but really, if you identify it as toxic, um, the number one thing you need to do is get away. Um, Now, if I may, the one thing that I wanted to comment on the previous brother, I believe it was two brothers prior to the discussion on toxic relationship. The brother was speaking on love, basically how you know that you, you're in love or not, and he was saying that you make that woman the priority. Um, and I definitely understand where he's coming from, and it makes sense. However, I want to caution um, brothers, but also women as well, in that not to lose yourself, because when you are so wrapped up into the other person, a lot of times you lose yourself. And that's one of the reasons that they fell in love with you in the first place, of you being yourself. So, again, I just want to caution to just totally throw your own individuality out the window for another person, because you can actually become another person by totally giving yourself away. Does that make sense?
Brother, it does make sense. Now, where I'm gonna jump back in with you real quick.
Okay.
This is solely my perspective on this. I number one, you're 100% correct. I think a lot of people go into relationships, and as they start to do more with their partner, they begin to lose their identity. But what I will tell you is that I'm not talking about you changing your identity. What I'm saying is, brother, if she is in need and you can't adjust yourself to facilitate those needs, you need to get your ass out of that relationship because you probably won't ready for it. And I think there's a lot of brothers that walk into relationships and they genuinely think they're ready, but a lot of them don't understand the expectations of what both sides expect. So, and I think it goes back to a lot of people rush into things, just like people will rush out of a relationship and jump into the next one. But you are 100% right. And I think it's super dangerous for brothers to, I think it's super dangerous for anybody in general going into a relationship to lose their identity in the process. It's very dangerous.
Indeed. Indeed, yeah. Most definitely. I agree with you on that adjusting, especially if you're actually going to be in a relationship and then you add love into that, most definitely. Um, but again, I think we on the same page in terms of making sure that you are still yourself, you know. So understood. I just wanted to, you know, put my 2 cents in on that, um, because I've seen it where um, brothers specifically pretty much lose themselves in a woman and end up and not being the person that who they are. You know what I'm saying? And that in and of itself leads to other problems.
Okay. So, and my take on toxic love. Toxic love, I've experienced it from a relationship point of view, and I've dealt with it in a family point of view. I got some relatives that I love dearly from a distance because, as much as I may love them, the way they live their life is not indicative to what I need for me and my family to grow and flourish. And it took me giving everything and ended up emotionally empty to understand that toxic love can be identified within family as well as outside relationships. So that's number one. And you have to set up boundaries and you have to understand. And I was the one who wanted to give this, and I want this person to be happy, and I was, so my cup was empty. You know, they say you're not supposed to draw from the cup, you're supposed to draw from the overflow. I had no overflow because my cup was empty. I was feeding to everyone, no one's feeding back. And it took a while for me to understand how to get out of those situations. But it rolled over into my relationship with my ex and other relationships, that same thing. Not recognizing that we're independently, we're fine. Together, we were not a good match. We weren't supposed, the relationship should have ended. It wasn't supposed, we weren't supposed to get married. That wasn't what we were supposed to do. Now said, we've been through our ups and our downs, our goods and our bad. So at this point, I was able to unpack. But what people have to understand is when you get out of a relationship, especially if it's one that you spend some time in and you getting ready to go into a new relationship, think of a new relationship as a new house. You can't bring all of your old furniture and clothes and mementos and all of his old furniture and clothes and mementos and try to put them in this 2-bedroom house and expect that both of y'all 3 bedrooms is gonna fit in here. That ain't gonna work. There's not gonna be no space for everything. So you have to figure out what you need to let go of, what you need to remove out of the situation. Before you get into another one, let me go through this baggage and unpack some stuff. Cause it's some, like, and like Jamila say, it's some stuff that I had to do for myself and say, you know what, I really don't need this no more. I really don't need this no more. I held on to this this mistrust for too long. I held on to this pain for too long. I held on to what he did too long. He gone and had his own little merry way, and I'm holding on to it, and I had to get rid of it. Is it easy? No. But is it realized before I walk into my next one, I had to let go of the other one. I had to be by myself for a long time. Not because I didn't have anyone to be with, because I wasn't mentally and emotionally ready to be somewhere, because I was messed up for a minute because of the expectations I had. Once I understood that, and once I took the time to unpack some of that baggage and leave some of them suitcases, when I did enter the next one, I was okay, because I wasn't holding on to some phantom love that don't really exist. I wasn't holding on to we gonna get back together at some point. I wasn't stalking their Facebook page. I was able to let them go. We were able to be friends because we have kids, but I was able to let them go and be okay with that. And until you get to that point where you're able to let them go and be okay with that, and you can't carry that into the next relationship. So in toxicity, love ain't supposed to hurt that bad. Yeah, y'all gonna have y'all bad times and y'all gonna cry a little bit. But if he or she raise their hand and hit you, that's not love, that's control. Or it may be their version of love, but that doesn't mean you have to participate.
Hey,
That's your spirit.
hey, Michelle, I got a question for you though.
Uh-huh.
Hey, so I know one thing you said kind of it sat with me, and that was that there was a point where you realized you had to be by yourself for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
My question, and I'm more so speaking from a lady perspective, is there a speed or is there a time frame attached to how long that recovery period should be? And the reason I say that is because as people get older, we all know the clock ticks, and eventually, the longer we are alive, the smaller the pool gets as we start to go out and search for love again. So is there a speed to recovery, or do you just have to have that internal acceptance that legitimately who is out there for me is there for me, and there's more of a speed of trust than a speed of love to getting back to recovery?
It's no set time because it depends on where you were when you exited the relationship. For instance, by the time the ending of a relationship, and a lot of times is like the 7 stages of grief. If you're by the time you file those divorce papers, whatever stage you at will dictate how long it will take before you can go into someone else. In my divorce, by the time I was brave enough and I was strong enough and I was real enough to file the paperwork, I was at like stage 6, getting ready to go into stage 7. But I had stayed years into a relationship I should not have. So by the time, so my rebound time wasn't as long as some other people. I chose to stay by myself a little bit longer because I had children and I had other things that I had to maneuver. But say I had been in stage 2 or 3 where I'm just not accepting things yet and I haven't understood it, then that's going to take significantly longer. It's no magic number of months or years that you're supposed to stay away. What it is a magic understanding in what your spirit is. Now, if you go to somebody's therapist and let them help you unbag, it may move a little faster because you got someone helping you with that process. But if you're doing it on your own, just be real and be honest. If you're not going to be real and be honest, we going to be in a world of trouble.
I want to add on to that. About there is no magic number. She's right. I would say that however you are feeling immediately after that breakup, I think that it is very imperative that whatever stage you're in, you don't stay in that stage. So basically, if you're in stage 2 of getting over a relationship that wasn't the best for you, a friendship, a situationship, whatever that is, it is very imperative that you do not stay in stage 2. You graduate to stage 3, you go on to stage 4. Make sure you are still maneuvering throughout life. Life does not stop because this has happened to you. Yes, you are going to be sad, you are going to cry, you are going to be depressed, but don't stay there. When you stay there, you put yourself in a position to let it consume you. And once you're consumed, it's hard for you to pull yourself out, and it's hard for somebody else to try and pull you out. So whatever stage that is, however long this whole entire process may take, don't stay in that one stage for too long. Pull yourself out and graduate to the next stage. Okay, now I'm done.
Michelle? So I would have a question for the man then. I mean, obviously, women, we have our thoughts, feelings, and opinions. I would definitely agree with both the ladies that there is no magic number. But to be honest, what I have seen when it comes to men is to heal from one relationship, they go immediately to another. I'm not saying that women don't do it, we absolutely do. However, I guess because I was raised around mostly men, I noticed it more frequently. So, is there a magic number for men, or is there no number? What do men do to do the work after you have come out of a toxic relationship?
So hey, you want to go first? Or you want me to go, bro?
All right, so I'm gonna go real quick because I'm driving and I want to be safe because it's raining and everything. So I will think back to the situations when I was in a toxic relationship. It takes for me anyway. What it took for me is a lot of alone time and time to be be by myself, time to just getting back to who I am and learning and discovering that I'm cool. You know, getting back into the gym, getting back to reading, just things that I enjoy doing, um, because for me, that's it, you know, the situation that's anyway, the toxic relationship that I was in, it was so detrimental in terms of it could have ruined my career, and it also had physical repercussion due to the stress. So once I realized that, again, I had to take a whole step back. Um, as far as the time frame of how long it took or whatnot, um, a few months before I jumped back into a relationship, you know, to be able to trust again and things like that. Can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So, okay. So from my perspective, I honestly believe that for some men, there is a time frame, but I think the time frame is solely dependent on how comfortable a man is in himself. There are some men who, I'm gonna just throw it out there. Look, there are some men who their whole life they are attached to a dependency to somebody else. And if they're attached to the fact that I need to have someone around me or I'm not whole, then there's those guys that as soon as they get out of a relationship, their brains immediately go to, it's okay, I'm gonna find the next one, not understanding that subconsciously it's because your brain is already clicking on, you're alone, I'm alone, let's figure it out, we need to get somebody else in here. And this is why I believe so many brothers are quick to get out of relationships and immediately jump into the next thing. And because they weren't prepared, now you're in a rebound, like I was saying earlier. And what you're doing at the same time is you're playing with the emotions of somebody else, which goes back to the phrase we've heard 1,000 times over: hurt people hurt people. But I believe that if you're a person that's confident and comfortable in yourself, you can really step back, frame the situation that you just left out of, and you'll take that time to kind of heal and progress. Now, the last thing I'll say, going back to what I was kind of originally putting out there, I will say that I, for a fact, know some men, and I'm talking brothers that are in their 30s and 40s, who, when they break up from relationships, and this is not a hot take, this is a real thing. I know brothers who, the minute they get out of a relationship, they are in a panic trying to get back out there, because in their minds, and because they were taught while young, once you start getting up in age, it is very difficult to find somebody else. And they feel just like a car that as soon as you drive it off the lot, it begins to depreciate over time. So they find themselves rushing, trying to find somebody so that they know that they're good. So I don't have a perfect answer, but what I will tell you is, for a lot of people, the clock solely depends on if you are whole in who you are as a person.
It's true.
You know, I want to piggyback on that, and I'll say this. Being in my 40s as a woman, yes, we can feel that same pressure, because you have that moment in time where, oh my God, I'm getting older and I don't want to be alone. However, I've recognized that also for me, being comfortable with myself and being comfortable with who I am and having my personal peace is by far more important than having somebody in my bed. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in a place and stage, and when you begin to talk to women who have hit that 45 and up mark, you will find that, listen, I need peace more than I need somebody in my bed. I can get a piece of something anywhere, but I need that peace, it mentally, emotionally, in my world before anything else. And so I'm gonna take my time when I'm going out with somebody. I need to know, have you done your self work? I need to know, what kind of toxic things have you experienced, because I want to make sure that I'm not a red flag to you as well. So definitely, as a woman, what they call it, woman of a certain age, help me Jesus, a woman of a certain age, I take my time, because yes, at some point, I am going to want that nested partner, but I'm not going to rush into that to sacrifice my peace.
I respect that. I definitely respect that, because peace is extremely important to me. I have it as one of my art pieces in my home. But that's, so I'm with you on that. But hey, I gotta run. I appreciate y'all for having me. And y'all have a good evening.
So, in all of this, in all these different moments and movements and understanding, and as we're figuring out what toxic is, the thing that I think I heard a lot of too, how well in a culture, in a generation, in where in the generation we're currently in the culture we're currently experiencing, not what happened in the past, not how it used to be, but right now as a people, do we really understand love versus lust? Is it I need to have this companionship, this peace, or is I need to have someone to warm my bed and to come home to because I'm lonely, I need companionship? Is it I'm with you because I love you and I want to be with you and you're my person? Or am I with you because I don't want to go to bed alone at night? And I know, and I can speak from a female point of view, I know many women who do, they can't handle being alone every night. More power to them, because like Jamila, I'm 40, I'm getting ready to be 42 years old. My peace, I can sleep by myself. I can put a teddy bear in the bed. I got if I want it, I can, me and my pillow are good. Me and my pillow up close and personal friends. I got me a fan going, so I got just appropriate amount of noise. Got my room. I need peace because I got to get up every day and work for a living. I got to get up every day and be mama and friend and confidant. When I come into my room, into my sanctuary, I don't want just a lump I just don't want a lump next to me. I need someone that I can feel peaceful and kind with. So my question to you all right now in this particular moment, tell me in this atmosphere, we have COVID going on, we have trifleness going on, we have some great things, but tell me how in this generation, from what you see, is it people just together for financial reasons? Are they together because I need someone that I can sleep next to at night and I don't want to be by myself? Is it I'm with you because I truly love you and I'm willing to do the work? How do we break this down in our culture? Come on, Ken Coleman. I see your whole entire face. Come on, Ken.
I can't right now.
You don't get a pass. Come on, Ken.
Hell no, y'all. Listen, no, you don't understand. No, you do not understand. No, hell no to the no, hell to the no. No, you don't. I'm gonna tell you why. Half of y'all, if you open your phones up right now, you got a picture of a sex meme in your phone. I guarantee it. You know why? Because my black ass do too. But anyway, not the point. The message I'm getting at right now is that nowadays we market that primary benefit. We market the benefits of relationships, but we market them all independently. Rock with me here. Number one, we will if you go online right now and you put pictures up, I guarantee you, if somebody puts a picture up of themselves looking sexy, you're going to see a couple different things. Number one, I promise you, there's probably an eggplant somewhere. Number two, I guarantee you, there's some water dots somewhere. Number three, I guarantee you, somewhere somebody put a peach up when somebody was twerking online. The message is that we have taken everything that is sexualized and we have made that the big message, making lust clearly what matters more. That's number one. Number two, let's go back to social media again. When you look at what is being promoted out to the world, very, very crucial here, rock with your boy. When we look at what's being promoted, how often do you see the pictures up of people talking about love, financial growth? You don't see it half as much as you see people talking about sex. Now, here's the thing. We have to be honest with ourselves. Social media has changed the way that a lot of people look at the world. And what I'm getting at is that some people have never experienced a real romantic relationship, but they experience it vicariously through the internet. So what you see is, because what's popular right now is the over-sexualization of men and women, it is the message that is constantly being spit out. So there are some people that believe that if you do not look, act, and think the way that you see things, that you're in the wrong. You're not moving in the right direction. So I believe it's pretty black and white that we are not in a position right now as people where love is what matters. And I also want to throw another thing out there. Pipe bomb coming, get ready. The reason that a lot of people do not focus on love is because you never saw it in your own damn house growing up, so you don't know what it means to value it in the first place. If you didn't grow up around it, and the only way that you learn about it is by sitting on social media or finding that one married friend that understands the advice, but you haven't physically seen it yourself. We literally have to create the definition. There's certain things that are obvious. If you do math, if you know 2 + 2 is 4, you can literally go, here's two, and when I count all of these fingers, it comes out to 4. It's objective. The problem with love is that it is subjective, and because it's subjective, everyone creates their perceptions based on what happens around them. And the number one thing that is around people right now is social media. And if you didn't grow up with it, you have no way to counter what's being told. So people who are ignorant are believing that that's what it's supposed to be, which goes back to what we talked about earlier. When the only thing you see is lust, and lust is all you know, but then you get into a relationship and the only thing you expect is that one part, but then you have to deal with all the other 500 pieces that come with it, and you are not satisfied. It gets boring, it gets annoying, it gets frustrating, it gets toxic. And when it gets toxic, it becomes problematic long term. So my message to you here, I believe that all in all, social media has completely ruined what a real romantic relationship looks like. But the funny thing is that every single one of us has the ability to control what it looks like. What's in your damn phone?
Okay, and before I let the rest of you talk, I'm gonna go piggyback with, because he's right. In a lot of situations, we ain't seen healthy love, so we don't know. Jamila, give it here. I can see it.
So, okay, and this is just me. I said this in part one. I had the opportunity to see what toxic love looked like and what healthy love looked like. So for me, I guess that isn't the case in terms of we don't know what healthy love looks like. But because I was primarily in the home with the toxic love, it made it a challenge, and I had to constantly go back to, okay, what does that healthy love look like? What does that healthy love look like? And now, the older I get, I'm not saying that lust isn't a factor when you're in your 40s and 50s, because it absolutely is, because at 45, I'm still a stunner. Don't trip. But what you do see is more conversations about what does the future look like. Yes, I want to, I definitely want to be attracted to my partner, but okay, are you involved in the stock market? Is that something that interests you? What are your long-term plans in terms of retirement? What are your goals in the next 2 to 3 years? Because at 45, 50 years old, you're not necessarily looking at 5 years. You want to know what's going on in the next 2 years. So those conversations, I'll say it this way, those conversations change. Yes, it is. I think there is a healthy space to be able to flirt and have that lust moment. But when you are talking about love, love is deeper than the body, because at some point, the wrinkles come into effect, and the tummies come into effect, and all of those things do. Is your relationship strong enough to last? And that's where love happens. Is your relationship strong enough to, do you have a firm foundation? I'll say it that way. You have a strong, firm foundation beyond lust to say that I love this person in terms of what we look like in the present and in the future.
Angel.
I need clarification on this
Hey,
question again. Ask it again.
Okay, wait a minute, Angel. Ken Coleman, what were you about to say?
nah, let the queen speak. I'm good.
Mute, you're on mute.
I realize it. For Angel, for you and Mr. Wendell, who we're going to say welcome to the live panel. The question is how does it play into our culture? Love versus lust. How does, with this generation, like Ken brought up the social media items, how does our culture today, not what happened in the past, not what we today, what is our culture like when it comes to love, healthy versus toxic, love versus lust? Is it just that we're looking for a warm person in the bed, or are we looking for just a financial person? What does it look like today in our generation? Let's be real. Angel.
Okay, so I can't really speak from a personal standpoint. Like I said, I'm still learning, still growing, all that type of stuff. But as far as today, a lot of people think that they're so in love with their significant other, and some of them may as well be. I look at it more of your infatuation with this person. You have fallen into convenience with this person, because this person has become a convenience for you not to be alone in your bed at night. This person has become a convenience of financial means for you, where you really don't have to work, but you still do, but this person going to take care of you. Especially on social media, like the biggest thing other than Instagram would be TikTok. And a lot of the TikToks that I see are relating to sugar babies, sugar daddies, sugar mamas, sugar babies. And that is just literally, some of them that's literally a straight lust thing. And it's not lust physically like a physical attraction. It's the lust after their pockets, a lust after how can they provide for them in the most materialistic way, or even the most financial way. And then you have some sugar parents, I guess we'll go with sugar parents, that they actually want some type of relation with their sugar baby. Like whether it is physical, some of them that I've seen have actually just agreed to pay their sugar baby thousands of dollars because they're having a conversation with them. They're making them feel like a person. Like it's a lot of lust. I've seen maybe a couple let me not say a couple. I've seen a good number of actual genuine marriages, genuine relationships between TikTok and Instagram. Do I know it's genuine? Not at all. I'm just looking at what I see on my phone screen. I can't really speak from experience about the lust versus love thing. Yeah, I'm still learning on that. Y'all can go.
Okay, Mr. Wendell, come on in. Let us know your opinion.
Okay, so I think a big part of this is going to be in having an understanding of where each comes from, where love comes from, and where lust comes from. Lust would be trying to feel something internal with something that is external. And love would be coming from a place where you have an abundance of what's internal that you can give to what is external. So when we're talking about relationships and being in love and things of that nature, your worldview, your personal worldview is going to have a lot to do with how you posture yourself in relation to love versus lust. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them. Lust being taking things from an area of need to the next level of wanting more of a surplus. So there's a healthy amount of need that we have, whether it is for food, whether it is for sex, whether it is for companionship or whatnot, whether it is to have that warm body next to us. There is a healthy level of need for that. Where it then becomes potentially destructive is when you go beyond the healthy level of need to the unhealthy need for surplus, for excess, to the point where it drives you more so than the need for other things which are more beneficial and necessary to survival and to growth. So I never want to demonize one versus the other, but really it's about having a understanding of what they are, and then being able to intentionally posture yourself in relation to each one of those so that you're able to maximize your life and potentially be an asset to help maximize the life of whoever it is that you are with, or whoever it is you are attempting to attract, whether you know who that person is at this point in time or not. So that's how I would answer that question.
Teach the people, man. Teach the people.
Okay.
I also want to say, like, with this generation, I guess you could say I'm borderline generation. Like, I was born in '96, so I might be in the generation, I might not, but I was raised up by my grandmother. So, I mean, ask my sister, she know. So I would say with this generation, a lot of people feel like, one, being in love or loving somebody is considered being a simp, or you're being too emotional, or you have feelings, and that is a bad thing. A lot of people treat it as though catching feelings, that's what it is, catching feelings, like it's a bad thing. So they use the whole lust, and in their minds, they turn it, or not abuse it. It's some word I'm looking for, but they make it into love in their minds. In reality, that's not really what it is, because they don't want to be known for, oh, I love my girl, or my girl loved me. They want to look like, kind of tough. They want to look like they don't have feelings. I mean, now that I can speak from experience, because I'm that person. I don't do all the extra stuff, but I do feel like, I have to show a tougher outer exterior. But in reality, I'm probably one of the most sensitive people in this world. But I mean, it's coming from like the younger generation, more so on the guy standpoint. They don't want to be known as catching feelings or looked at like a simp, whatever that means.
Hey, can I jump in real quick? I just got one thing I got to say on what she just said. So, okay, this goes back to me sitting down talking with my bros again. One of the boys said, hey, listen, any man that's afraid to catch feelings shouldn't be mad when another man has an interception. That's all I got.
And with that, let's talk. Let's explore that. Love is meant to be displayed. It may not be PDA. It may be different one, and then they have different ways we call love languages. How important is the language that love in a relationship? How important is it to understand the love languages of the people that you're dealing with? How important is that? Words of affirmation, touch, quality time. You know, all of these things matter in some way, shape, or form. But how do we get that connection for people to understand that these love languages exist, especially in our culture who doesn't always check these things out? How do we get that understanding that these love languages exist and identifying can make your relationship stronger because it tells you how each other wants to be addressed. For personally, I'm touch and I'm time. Spend time with me. And touch doesn't mean sex. Touch means means you hold my hand. It might mean you walk close and we're close to each other. But that's a thing for me. Where my partner, not necessarily the touch part, but the quality time and the words of affirmation. I need to speak positive. In our culture, with our music has been changed. And the words of affirmation aren't in the music like it was back in the day. What do we need? How do we work within that? What does that look like to you? Do you know what does love languages mean to you? Mr. Wendell, can you start us off this time?
Okay. So I would say that um, a conversation can't be had unless the medium being used for the conversation is understood by both parties. So love languages is simply a way to cognitively understand the medium through which the conversation of love is to be had between two people, or between whatever the particular dynamic is. And so whenever there is not a understanding of that medium, then the potential and the eventual or the inevitability of conflict is going to be there. It's going to be present, and it's going to happen with far more frequency and potential intensity than it would if there was an understanding of of that of the languages in the beginning. So as much as there are external forces that tend to try to bombard us and condition us in a certain way, with respect to love and things like that, it really is a function of personal growth and personal self-awareness, to be able to understand, how is it that I receive love? How is it that I tend to express love? And then taking that awareness into a new relationship, and being able to state definitively that this is how I perceive and this is how I receive love, and then having the presence of mind and the interest in your partner, the curiosity in your partner, to actually want to know how it is that they receive love. The people, there's a big I guess it's a thing. It's probably been well, definitely been influenced by maybe the Christian faith, in how you deal with people, called the golden rule. And I'm sure everybody has heard about that, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And when you take that perspective into your interpersonal relationships or your romantic relationships, that can actually set you up for the biggest amount of failure. Because to do unto others as you would have them do unto you is to say, this is how I like to be treated. Therefore, I'm going to treat you the way that I like to be treated. And when we take it into the area of love, I'm going to love you the way that I like to be loved. But when you understand that there are languages, that there are other means and other methods to convey love, and that other people will gravitate towards other expressions of love, and they may hit home for them more so, then treating them the way you want to be treated actually isn't loving them. You may be treating them nicely or kindly, but that does not translate to love. So the better rule would be the platinum rule, which is to do unto others as they would like to be done unto. Treat them how they want to be treated. And then in return, the reciprocal angle of that is that they will then be able to, then if they have that awareness and that emotional intelligence, then they will put in the effort to treat you how you want to be treated, or in essence, to love you how you want to be loved, and you love them how they want to be loved. And when you don't do that, and when you don't take a conscious approach to that, then what you find yourself dealing with is a lot of disappointment. And I tend to, I state to people that I know that disappointment lives in the space between expectation and capacity. So if I have an expectation that you're going to speak love to me, and my love language is physical touch and words of affirmation, so my expectation is here, and you don't have the capacity to speak love to me in the language that I understand, your capacity for that is down here, and my expectation is up here, then all in this gap is where we're going to have miscommunications. We're going to have missed expectations. We're going to have disappointments. We're going to have problems. And so, but if I can come to you and let you know that this is how I receive love, and you can come to me and say, all right, that's not how I tend to speak love, but because now I know that this is where you are, I am going to intentionally focus on raising my capacity in that area so that there's much less opportunity for us to get our wires crossed. And when we don't do that through not speaking up for ourselves and advocating for ourselves in the area of how we need to be loved, and assuming that simply because I'm choosing to be with you, that you're automatically going to know how to love me, then, if you make that mistake in your approach to love, then you are going to reap a whirlwind, and that whirlwind will destroy your foundation and potentially uproot and damage your relationship, and it's completely avoidable. But it just takes some intentionality and some emotional awareness before you even engage in the area of relationship. So.
Yep. All of what he said. I'm going to chime in because I personally believe, and this is just from growth, from knowing and understanding what love languages were in the beginning to where I am now. At some point, we have a hierarchy of what our top love language is. That can shift with time as you grow. So, even though I find, it necessary right now. My primary love language might be words of affirmation. At some point when I was in my 20s, my love language was gifts. Bring me flowers, bring me strawberries, bring me, so it shifts in time in terms of what one needs for love language. But as Mr. Wendell was saying, it is vitally important to understand what the other person needs. Like I said last week, teach me how to love you. My job is to love you according to your needs, not according to how I want to love you. Just because I need words of affirmation doesn't mean that you need constant words of affirmation. You might be in a moment and season in your time where you need that physical touch, or you need gifts because nobody has ever given you a Christmas gift, because, we're talking about different love languages and toxic, Lord, I can't say it now, but, we're talking about toxic love and all of that stuff. So if your fundamental love language right now is gifts because you've never experienced that, then I've got to step up, and you have to learn, okay, well, what kind of gifts does this person like? Now you have to really do some diving into who this person is, because, okay, I could go buy you a pair of Jordans, but if a pair of Jordans isn't what you want in terms of a gift, if that's not a basis for what you want in terms of a gift, then that's not a good gift. On the other hand, if you are into food, finding beautiful cookbooks and things like that are going to be exceptionally exciting for them, because, oh my God, now I have some new things to try. That's their love language. So now that bond and connection. And now when I need quality time as my love language, hey, let's pull out your cookbook and let's spend some quality time together and let's cook something. That's a healthy love language. That's my thought.
Angel.
It's crazy that we're talking about love languages, because I literally just asked someone the other day what their love language is. Not only did I want to know what it was, like hear them verbally say what it is, but because I noticed, I picked up on a few things just by talking to them and spending time with them. I've learned what they like and what would be highest in priority versus what would be low. Personally, me, I would just say I need all of them. That's just me. All of them. I need them all. My biggest ones, I've always thought that my biggest ones were physical touch and quality time. And the more that I sit here in this jail cell in Fort Benning, I realize that my words of affirmation is slowly creeping to the top of that list. Because me being here, I can't actually touch anybody. I can't actually spend quality time with someone. So just hearing, certain things like, you got this, you're doing good. And it's not just from a relationship standpoint, it's also from a friendship standpoint, from a family standpoint, from whoever you have any type of relation with, whether it's romantic or just, y'all kicking it, whatever, y'all friends, whatever, sister, brother, whatever. That has become a very important thing to me from stepping foot into the army. Because I'm not able to touch or spend time with the people I love the most. And with me not being able to do that, hearing them say, you got this, you're good, I'm proud of you, it takes a weight off of that person's shoulders, and it shows you how much that person cares about you. The person who I asked about their love language, I noticed that it was more so physical touch, but I wanted to be sure. So when he told me, I was just like, okay, I can see that. And I think a lot of guys, and I could just be talking out of the side of my neck when I say this, a lot of guys' love language is physical touch, because I have come across homeboys who tell me like the girl bought them this or the girl did this for them. But how many times a day have you actually come home from work and your girl is there just to give you a hug? Like, I feel like as Black men, they go through so much in the world. Physical touch is high on their list and they don't even know it. And for them to come home like, yeah, I cooked for you. Yeah, I bought you this. Or they're sending you a text message like, hey, I love you. I mean, those are good, but sometimes as Black men, like they need that release of physical touch, whether it is in a romantic way or even just you hugging them or just showing them by touching them in some way, shape or form, and letting them know that you see them. I see you're here. I want to show you how much you're appreciated. A lot of guys that I've talked to, not even on a romantic tip, just hanging out or just they tell me about their relationship, like they're just like, they need that. So yeah, like I said, I'm still learning. Don't listen to me. What do I know?
K-Fits.
Oh, you know what? I like that because, and I'm just chiming in real quick. I like that because a lot of times as women think that men's physical touch love language is automatically sex, and that is not the case. That is absolutely not the case. So something simple as, you know, I want to hold your hand, or I want to give you a hug, or a foot massage, something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's not always sex. And we as women go into that toxic place and assume that it's always going to be sex. So I really, really like that you brought that to the table.
Yeah, sex isn't always, I mean, for guys, I'm pretty sure they like it. All right, cool. But honestly, some guys, they just really, I've come to learn that all guys are babies in some way, shape, or form. They just want to be held. They just want to be held, to know that, you know, whatever battles they're fighting on the outside, they don't have to fight them within this house with you. They just want to be held. They want to be loved. It doesn't always have to lead to sex, and sometimes it does, but just hold that person because they need it. They're not going to verbally say it, but you as their significant other should be able to pick up on certain social cues to know that, hey, my significant other needs, like he done had a bad day, or he's dealing with this in his head. He might not want to burden me with that, exactly what it is. He might not even tell you what it is. He might even just come up to you and give you a hug. And at that moment, you need to know that he needs you to love on him and show him that he's appreciated or show him that he's loved. But like I said, I don't know nothing.
Okay, King Coleman. King Coleman. Come on. Come on.
For somebody that doesn't know anything, she just said everything. And I mean, she just said, like, you see me sitting over here right now. I legit, as somebody who, so right now, and I'm gonna use my personal experience. So right now, I'm an active duty Army captain stationed out at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. My day ends around 9:30 every afternoon, and the next day begins around 3. And throughout the entire day, I'm moving around. And there's a term I'm going to bring up, which is contentious. And at work, we're constantly dealing with contentious people who have a problem with how we do things, how we envision things. There are people that you can present to them your process for how you want to handle basic stuff, and they feel the need to just jump in and change 1 or 2 things, because once they change those 1 or 2 things, their name is on it. And now it goes on their evaluations, their appraisals. And I'm sending a message to some of y'all out here. Some of y'all got bosses right now that change 1 or 2 things because they can't claim ownership of it until they put their hands in it. Message: if you know you got it right, do it the way that you see fit, because 9 times out of 10, they trying to take part of your blessing for themselves. Message. Anyway, back to the point though. We deal with people that are contentious all the time. And the last thing that a man wants to come home to is a contentious woman in their household. And I am one of the, I'm very, very adamant about not coming home to debates, not coming home to arguments. And I just want to come home to peace, to silence. And I'm not talking like shut your mouth when I come in the house. I want silence from the outside world. Like, I've been hearing the noise of other people's problems. I've dealt with stressors outside of my house. Just for a little bit, give me the peace that I could never get outside of my home. And for me personally, it is literally as simple as laying my head on a lap and my head being rubbed. I don't need anything else. I'm not asking you to come out of pocket. I'm not even asking you to ask me how my day was. If you want to, anything else is extra. But it's the very, very small things that I enjoy. And I think sometimes we try to hyperbolize what other people want. And I think sometimes a lot of people have the problem of taking their love language and not necessarily trying to having the debate of, well, this is my love language and this is how I do it. But a lot of people they try to force their partner to assimilate to theirs. And when you try to force people to be like you bring contention, even though it is unintentional. So another thing I will mention is that we need to understand that a lot of times the other person doesn't know their love language because they don't even know that love languages exist. And what happens is people are all over the place. And the last thing I'll say is we have to accept that as much as we want to say, what is your love language? There are people that ride the fence between multiple love languages, and based on what is going on in their life, what was a love language 6 months ago may not be the love language later. So just remain flexible, continue to learn your partner. And with you being a person that understands the different love languages, it is very, very important to have that dialogue to explore your partner. And you may be able to help them figure out what it is. Because like I said before, they may ride in 1, 2, 3 different love languages, but there may be that one of the 3 in particular that as long as this one is fed, they are satisfied. That's all I have.
And if I could piggyback on that, if you read the book, then you've also seen the introduction of the concept of the love tank. And to your point, as we are poured into, our love tank fills, our reserves are replenished. And some things, some expressions of love, can fill up a love tank more quickly or more readily than others can. But at the end of the day, making intentional deposits into your partner's love tank is the best way to insulate yourself and your relationship from potential discord. So doing something, maybe even if it's as regular or as intentional or systematic as, once a week or once every couple of weeks or however, whatever the interval is, just asking your partner, how's your love tank? Because that may have been the very question that they needed to have asked in order to release pent up frustrations and disappointments and things that may have been keeping them from giving you what you need. But because you took the time to be intentional and inquire and show genuine concern in studying your partner, which actually kind of goes back to, I believe, what Angel was intuitively saying that she was doing, based on her observations of men who she's dealt with, is just having a presence of mind to focus on what your partner is feeling, is needing, and then being willing to engage them in a way to see that that need is met. And that is one of the best ways to ensure that your relationship becomes healthy, if it isn't healthy already, and if it is healthy, to keep it that way. And far too often, because of the pressures of the world, and to you, my brother, King, you were talking about social media earlier on, all these external influences that come in to absorb and distract our attention, and to interject things into our relationship that really don't mean anything. They're not beneficial, but they tend to, cloud our worldview. Intentionally eliminating the mess and getting rid of the noise, and focusing our attention on what is truly important within our relationship. It's just a great way to make sure that you are coming home to that peace, and that we all are coming home to that peace that we need, and that we desire, and that we that safe harbor in a tumultuous storm, or that oasis in a barren and dry desert. That's what our relationship is supposed to be. And we just have to replenish the well, and do it intentionally, systematically, regularly, and we'll see the garden flourish. So
we've talked about, Angel mentioned how it is often underestimated what males need this day and age. So my question now becomes, what is the next thing that we can do? The next thing that we can do to infuse a deeper understanding of love in this generation that's below us? How can we go about, person by person, for everyone that's under the sound of our voice, go about teaching what love is, so that we can somehow break the cycle of pain that's passed, because they haven't seen. I was raised by a single mom, so I didn't see a relationship. I saw my mom and things. I saw my dad, his thing, but I didn't see the connection, the cover, the closeness. I didn't grow up with him in the house with me. So what I didn't see what he would have needed as a man in a relationship, so much as I know to love him as a father-daughter love. I could do that well. How do we teach the young, for the ladies, how do we teach the young women how to love this next generation coming up under us? And for the men, how, from things that you learned in your past, as you're ushering them into manhood, how do you teach them to love women and also love themselves? And that's a big thing. How do we get that love? Because as Wendell said earlier, one part of it is the love we have in and we're pushing it out, and one part is the love from the outside coming in. How do we make that streamline a little bit more? How do we get the conversation started so that to hope to change some of these raunchy ways, if per se? I mean, sex is good and it could be anywhere in its time, but how can we get it to a point where they're not confusing it, and we're supporting who needs to be supported the appropriate way? Angel, go ahead. I saw your hand go up as soon as I said it.
The reason why I raised my hand to ask to say something is because, like, I guess you could say I'm kind of part of this generation. So with trying to teach someone the ways of what their significant other need, or how to love, or in order to teach somebody this, I feel like we first have to understand and learn about what it is for ourselves, or learn in general. I feel like to be a teacher, you have to learn first. So I guess with me, I didn't, like you said, I mean, I didn't grow up with, actually, I just grew up with my grandmother. My grandmother raised me, that's mommy, that's it. I didn't grow up seeing her with a man or this man or that man to even have some type of idea of what love should be like. So I wasn't able to learn then. I learned one through trial and error. Like I said, you gotta bump your head sometimes. I learned through watching, you know, others around me as I got older, especially. I learned from seeing or hearing stories about my grandmother's marriages and my sister marriage, and you know, from them and even from the outside people that I've learned from, I've learned what I want for myself and what I don't want to enter into my home, into my relationship, or even into my energy. So in order to teach I guess the generation coming up, I guess I would have to have a clearer understanding of what love is or what it means to me, and how do I extend that love to somebody else. And then I can teach.
Okay. Jamila?
In terms of love, communication is everything. First world, me, for me, I had the privilege of seeing 3 generations of what love was like. I saw my great grandparents. I saw, so I saw what love looked like, what love's not supposed to look like, what a healthy disagreement looked like. You can have a healthy disagreement in love. And then what toxic disagreements look like. So the communication level of how to love is so fundamental in terms of you know, it was always fascinating to me. And I'm gonna share this little story. So once upon a time, my mother in her younger years walked in on my great grandparents, and in their intimate moment. And when I was younger, I was like, oh my God, that's so gross. But now I understand that, you know, even as they were older and up in years and things like that, there was still a very necessary love moment that, you know, that they were experiencing, and she saw it. And that's why she shared that doesn't matter how old you get, there is still a love moment that will always happen, that will always be when you. They were friends. Yeah, they loved each other, but they were friends, and the friendship is what kept the in love part. Because at some point, yes, you know, sex dies. It just does. At some point, sex can die. Um, but when you talk about teaching future generations, I am actually kind of in a space where I'm teaching 2 different generations, because I have millennial kids, and then I have that next generation that my youngest is in that next generation. And so for him, I recognize what his love language is. I recognize what my children's love languages are, and I watch to see if they change. And we have those conversations in terms of, you know, well, how are you feeling? What do you feel about this? What do you feel about that? You know, if if my son is in a space where he needs to hear words of affirmation, because he did well. Prime example, this week he did absolutely phenomenal on a Black History report that he had to do. So not only did he get words of affirmation from mommy to let him know that I'm proud of you, that you can do anything, that, you know, I'm proud of the work that you did. But I also know that my son loves orange chicken. So I went and I ordered orange chicken for dinner. That was huge to him in terms of what love looks like. She recognized, mommy recognized, you know, that I worked really, really hard on this. And I don't like food anyway. I did what I was supposed to do. I recognize that. So let me reward that in terms of your love language. And having those healthy conversations with those next generations. You know, I have my oldest 3 are all girls. How you present yourself matters. Because if you walk out, and don't get me wrong, I am all for sex positive environments and all of that, but how you present yourself does matter. If you come out that way, and let me say this, I'm not saying that women, we can't walk out, can't be sexy. Yes, it's hot outside, so I want to wear a shorts. It is not giving men the ability and the permission to call and degrade women and take them for that. However, what I have learned over the years is that little bit of mystery is real sexy. It's real sexy. So I don't have to always present myself half naked to come off as sexy. So now that I'm not coming out that way and presenting myself now that I'm not presenting myself in that manner, you can actually get to know me and not just my body. And that's where love flows and falls, when you actually get to know a person and have a conversation with a person. So the one thing that I would teach the next generation is definitely how you present yourself matters, and communicate, talk. This is how you find out what love is to you. This is how you find out what love is to your partner or potential partner.
Okay. King Coleman.
All right. So, I've said this before, and I'm gonna keep on hitting this message. So the way that I think we teach love, first and foremost, and I'm trying my best to angle myself properly, but here's the deal. Number one, if you want to teach love, you have to practice self-love first, because there are a lot of people who want to love others, but never took the time to learn how to love self. And part of that is not necessarily your fault, because you may have been in a household where love wasn't taught. So if that's your situation, it's understandable. But I want to be very clear. How do you teach someone else how to love if you don't even understand your value and your worth to yourself? And now you're going to try to glorify the values of other people. How do you do it the right way if you don't even know how to love you? Now take it another step. How do you teach someone else how to love when you don't even know how to love appropriately, period? So the first thing I would tell anybody is, before you try to love on somebody else, love yourself first. That's my number one. The second thing I'll tell you, and this is very, very big in the military, we talk about the phrase lead by example. Well, I tell my son, because he and I get into it at least maybe once, twice a week. I tell him, you have to love by example the same way you lead by example. Everything that I do, every action that I take, I do it in front of him with the intention of him seeing it happen. Because very, very often, I believe that when it comes to love, people live in the mindset of do as I say, not as I do. And because a lot of people do that, it's very, very hard to teach down. Like, look, you're telling me, like, you're an adult. You're telling me this is how you should love a person. But mommy, daddy's in the other room. Why you got the Tinder app on your phone? So I'm gonna just drop that. Y'all know I gotta be messy before I finish, so I apologize. So the next thing I'm gonna tell you is you need to communicate to your kids or to the young people that you deal with. You need to communicate why you do stuff. You gotta communicate why. So, for example, every single time I'm out with mommy, regardless of how our relationship is, I will open the door. And when my son is with me, then if let's say it's 2 sets of doors going into a building, daddy will open door number 1. And I will say, son, go in there and open door number 2. So now he's in the practice of it. And when he opens the door, I say the reason why you open doors is because your mom opened the door to your life. It's an act of love. Every woman in this world opened the door of life for someone to come in. You should be more than happy to open a door to let them go into a freaking building. There was 9 months involved in a life door being opened. I'm pretty sure your 10 seconds is okay. So I explain those things, but I give it to him in an impactful way to where he internalizes it and he understands it. So that's another thing. The next thing I'll tell you is you have to repeatedly appraise the kids that you're around. And the reason I say appraise, I'm not talking about telling them you're wonderful, you're great. No. So as kids, they know how good they are strictly based on what they hear and the responses they get for their actions. So I know with my son is very, very good. He's very, very good with math. So I'm constantly telling him, son, you are very, very good with math. With that being said, as you get older, if you keep on doing this, you're going to be really, really good with your finances. You're going to be able to budget extremely well. And I give him those things that are life tools that he needs to have. So as he gets older, the things that we're affirming now and appraising now, when it's constantly in his head, when he gets older, he's going to know, okay, well, because I'm good at this, I'm going to be able to manage my bank account. I'm going to be able to count. I'm going to be able to save. And it becomes tools that are attractive to the right female because she knows that he knows how to manage and take care of himself. So you have to continually reappraise so that they know as they get older. Yep. Have y'all ever ran into a person in a conversation and you've had to ask them, what do you bring to the table? And then you get this? Nothing. It's because nobody in life ever identified in them what they have, and they never took the time to take stock in self. So what we can do is help them take stock in their self along the way. Now, the last thing I'm going to throw out there is that we have to be open about our lessons learned as adults, because a lot of us, your ass ain't perfect either. And you done did some stuff that you ain't got no damn business doing. And for some of y'all, it ended in some very rough patches. Example number 1, some of y'all were in relationships and you cheated. You've also been cheated on yourself as well. You need to be able to talk about those lessons with those kids and tell them how it feels. Tell them about the guilt when you did it. Tell them about the feeling when it happened to you. Also, tell them about that time. And I don't know who up here has this, but I'm gonna throw it out there. Pipe bomb coming, get ready. Some of y'all out here had unprotected sex and probably caught an STD. Tell them about what happens when you don't practice safe sex. Tell them about what happens when you get into those relationships with people and you messed around and you ended up having children. And tell them what happened. Tell them that the child was kept because you were trying to hold on to love that was no longer there. Fellas, tell them that you were that you decided to stay with the baby, but you wanted no part of being with the mom and you regretted that you should have never been there in the first place. Or talk about how you tried to make the relationship work and after the child, things just didn't work out. Tell them about the sacrifices that had to be made for you to find where you are in life right now and how you perceive love. And if you're with someone, why you love the way that you do. There's so many different directions we can go with this, but everyone has an obligation to teach the next generation how to love, because if you don't, as I've been told 1,000 times, if you don't teach it, there's someone who will. Are you willing to risk the person that teaches them not being you? That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Wendell.
Okay, so I wrote a couple of notes here, but just to the last point that my brother just made here, that's actually a very poignant point there, because people can only teach you one of two things in life. People can only teach you what to do and what not to do, and it's up to you to decide if you're going to learn the lesson or not. But as John Maxwell says in the law of the price tag, you're either going to pay the price or you're going to pay the price for not paying the price. So, but what I wrote down was, first thing, when it comes to teaching, the next generation or younger people about love, is to properly orient yourself to love. And that may mean changing your orientation towards love as a concept. That love is not scarce. Love is abundant. Okay. Because when love becomes abundant, then the person that you love or the people that you love no longer become things that you need to collect and own, as much as they are things that you get to enjoy and experience. So yeah, just change it from a scarcity mentality to a love, to an abundance mentality and orientation for love. Next, I would say you teach, understand for yourself, and then teach them about being aware of their worldview. Okay, how is it that how is that developed, and to be critical. Okay, and as I've said before, love is comprised of your experience, your information, your repetitive voices, and your authoritative voices. And in this world that we live in, that is so social media heavy, our young people's experiences is being directed by what they consume and the information that is being measured out to them. And that information comes in with such high repetition that it default becomes the authority when it pertains to love and many other things. So what we got to do is study our children, observe our children, and then understand which of these worldview influences is having the greatest influence, and then use that particular avenue to reshape their worldview. So if they are, constantly being bombarded by body yada yada and WAP and whatever, if those are the authoritative and repetitive voices that are coloring their experience, and that's the information that they are consuming, then we got to be intentional about either supplementing or replacing that with information that will edify and build them up to have a better, more appropriate, understanding and disposition towards love. And just use that, like I said, just use that as a primary avenue. I mean, so it's systematic, because it is, a each one teach one type of thing, in my opinion. But in order to accelerate and the permeation of this dynamic understanding of love throughout their culture, it's gonna take some focus. It has to, and it has to be focused, because if we're not intentional about it, best believe someone else is being intentional, and they're intentionally doing it so that they can profit off of our children, and the byproduct is the destruction of our communities, destruction of our relationships, and a further widening of the gulf that exists between us, as when we're young, and then it becomes almost insurmountable when we get older. So those of us who are older, you know we got to get on this with that gazelle intensity, with that laser focus, and that intentionality, in order to affect the type of result that we would like to see, coming up in the young people behind us. So that's what I would say.
Um, I would like to jump on that a little bit and say, parents, number one, forgive yourself if you feel like you have not loved correctly or shown love correctly. We as people can only love to the capacity in which we have learned ourselves to love. That is all we have. So, I went through this phase where I beat myself up a little bit in terms of how I was showing and teaching my children how to love. Um, in the moment that I was able to forgive myself, and not only that, but I had to fall back and say, where did this come from? So I had to forgive generationally. When you talk about love, there is still that generational curse, as it were. So generationally, that some of the things that I saw that were toxic in love and how we taught love and things like that, I had to forgive those generations to heal myself. So I think it is ever so important that, as the main stage generation right now, that we forgive ourselves in terms of beating ourselves up in terms of how we have up until now taught our children to love. To know better is to do better. So, you know being able to say, I forgive myself, and I'm going to do better, and I'm going to communicate with my children better, and we're going to grow together in this love path, so that when my children and my grandchildren walk into love, they now know what healthy love for them looks like. But always remember that you will only love to the capacity that you have to love. So, what you're teaching them and what you're pouring into them is so vitally fundamental. And that's why it's so important that even as you're teaching, that you are doing your own personal self work, and diving off into, okay, what are the things that I lacked? What can I do better? What do I see in my children? There are constant questions that have to be asked of self, so that you can move forward with that next generation in a very healthy manner. So I think that is something when you're talking about next generation, that it is so fundamental. First, forgive thyself so that you can move forward to teach healthy relationship and healthy love.
Yeah, that's good. It's a mantra that I have for myself is that I I acknowledge and embrace the light and the dark within myself and others, and I strive to find the balance. And if we don't give ourselves the grace and the space to recover from imbalance, then we'll never be able to properly orient anyone else towards that balance. So that's good, Jamila.
Okay. So before we get off the live, is I had one question in the gallery tonight, and she asks, "What if you have been in love and have been hurt, and now you don't know how to love anymore because of the wall you built? How where do you go with that? What will be your advice for her in this situation?" Jamila, go ahead. I saw it.
So, so there is no other way. There's no other way to knock down those walls unless you are willing to do the work yourself. Do you know what love feels like and looks like to you? One of the things that my mother encouraged me to do after I got divorced was to date myself, to know what I to know what. And the older you get, you figure out what you're gonna put up with and what you're not gonna put up with. Um, and I've said this a lot. I applaud the millennial generation in that they have gotten to a point where they learn those things and figure out those things a little faster than we did. What they like, what they don't like, what they're gonna put up with, what they're not gonna put up with, how they like to move and flow and things like that. Um, so it's important when you have been hurt, when you have been wounded, sit in that for a moment and really address what was it that hurt, how did it hurt, where do I go from here? Am I willing to knock down those walls to take a chance at getting to know, not falling in love, but getting to know someone again genuinely? That is where love comes from, getting to know someone genuinely. You don't just fall, you don't just fall in love. That's lust. When you first look at a person, oh my God, he's fine, she's fine. That's lust. But getting to know someone is where love begins. So you have to be open and honest enough with that person and with yourself. You know what? I got a big old wall built up, and I'm not really sure where to go doing self work. And now that I'm in a place where I feel like I'm in a healthy space now where I can venture off and try to be in another relationship. I need you to show me a little bit of grace and communication with me. Or if you see that, that wall is starting to come down and I build it back up again, let's have a conversation. And I need you to have a little grace with me in terms of being patient enough to allow me to slowly knock that wall down. And if that person is patient with, that's where you build. That hurt. You cannot allow that hurt to last always. Remember the pain. Don't sit in the pain. I think that is really, really fundamental in terms of how to move forward. Life happens and it hurts. It hurts to your core. But being willing to move forward in okay, I've done the work. Now, this is how I need you to love me. These are the love languages, everything that we've talked about. This was the toxic space in my life. Having that communication level, everything in terms of being able to move forward and take another chance at being in love. not just love, but being in love.
Go ahead, Angel.
I don't want to say I'm speaking from experience, because I don't know, whatever. And this might not even be of help, but I'm gonna assist in any way I can. I would say that when you have up a wall, yes, you are blocking a person from trying to love you, or you're blocking that person from them coming into you. And I get that. But what I've also learned, and maybe because I watch too much TV as I sit here in this jail cell, what I've learned is that when at the same time you are blocking somebody from coming in, you are also trapping yourself inside as well. You're not letting yourself out. And that's literally what it is. I would say before that you got hurt, you have to, like, I'm a person that I've been hurt before. And hurt is a feeling or a disappointing feeling because of an attachment you have made with somebody and they have let you down. And now you are hurt about it. With that being said about what hurt is, I would say, remember the times before you were hurt, before you met that person. I have a loving spirit. So with me having been hurt before, I love without regret. If I loved you in any way, shape, or form, I learned my lesson for it. I cried my tears. I might have even bowed my head, but I picked myself back up and I have to keep moving because the world is still going on around you. So with you blocking yourself in this little, let's say a little tower, cement tower, you have to kind of like pull a brick at a time, let the sun shine in, let the birds come in. I'm not saying you gotta wholeheartedly just knock the whole wall down, but slowly but surely take it down brick by brick, and maybe build up a fence to try to, peep over that fence and see who you're trying to let in. That could also help you as well. Then again, I don't know nothing. I'm just gonna hush.
Mr. Wendell, come on.
Angel, you know more than you give yourself credit for. And I would just encourage you to make sure that you don't cross the line between humility and false humility. Give yourself and accept the credit for the wisdom that you have, and celebrate that, because you have a voice, and it definitely deserves to be heard. So speak loud and speak bold, sister. But when it comes to the building of walls and getting over past pain, walls can also become wells. And the wall that you build to keep the emotional storm out can very well become the well that you drown in when the emotional flood comes. So it would be advisable, to give yourself the opportunity to have a drainage hole, so that you can let some of that well water out, just so that you don't drown in your own pain and your own sorrow. Forgive yourself. My God, you can never allow love can never come back to you if all of your emotional space and capacity is filled up with fear and pain and kicking yourself and downing yourself. Forgiveness is a gift that you give to yourself. And there's a book that I'm reading, and it has some tenets in it that I like, and that I too am incorporating into my life. And one of them is that there's no victims and there's no villains, because people are who they are, and the person that you interact with at the time that you interact with is the sum total of the experiences that they've had up until that point, which may not have been best for you at that point of intersectionality. in your lives. It doesn't mean that they are bad and that you are good, or vice versa. It just means that at that point of conjunction, who you were and who that person were not compatible. And allowing someone to stay in your space longer than they need to is what gives others opportunity to hurt us, when otherwise they just would have been a blip on the radar, going along their own path. You are the center of your own universe, and you are the flame. Yes, you are fire. Your life is a flame, and there's one thing about flames, about fire, is that people are either going to gravitate towards the heat and get closer, or they're going to run from the heat. They're going to gravitate towards the warmth, or they're going to run from the heat. Okay, so you just continue to burn and let the things that need to come closer to you come close to you. And the things that need to get away from you, let them go. Because none of those things changes the nature of fire. Fire is just going to be fire. It's just going to burn. Fire doesn't care about how others react to it. It just is. So, you let your light shine and let your fire burn. And, like I said, give yourself the grace and the space to be and to become. Because that one instance of pain doesn't have to define your entire life going forward. It just marks an event that happened in your history. So allow yourself to let it go, so that you can have your hand and your heart open to receive whatever else life and the universe and the creator have for you. Because you can't grab onto that if your fist is clenched, holding on to a pain that happened in your past. Okay, that's what I would say.
And Mr. K Fitz.
So number one, brother, you just spoke a sermon over the whole situation right there. But what I will say quickly, so Law 18 of the 48 Laws of Power: do not place yourself within a fortress, because isolation is dangerous. So when it comes to our relationships, when we're interacting with other people, it is very, very easy to be hurt and to draw into your shell. And the problem is that when we get to that point that we're in our shell, you are at your most vulnerable. And it's okay for you to be vulnerable. But putting yourself in a position to where you can't even communicate, you can't begin the practice of recovery, now on top of the pain that you feel, now you are practicing self-inflicted injuries. You're placing self-inflicted injuries on yourself. You're bringing that to you, and it's something that you're not worthy of, and it's something that you don't deserve. Feel how you feel, go through those emotions, and once you go through it, you have to put yourself in a position to where you can respond and get back out there. So what I like to tell people in different coaching sessions is that whenever your email is full to capacity, you can't receive any mail. The problem with a lot of people is that when they go through life and they receive pain from whoever, in their inbox is pain, frustrations, disappointment. And before you know it, their inbox is full and they can't receive the one message in their inbox of, give me a chance. I'm here for you. I got your back. You know why? Because they keep going to the outbox, because we never clean out the inbox. We never clean out the deleted items. We never archive the rest of the negativity so that we can refresh and allow ourselves to receive messages of love from others. So what I honestly believe is that there has to come a point where we have to just step back, feel what we feel, accept it. It's okay. But try your best to avoid getting into such a place of isolation that you block the blessing that is literally standing outside of the drawbridge waiting for you to lower. That's all I have.
Okay. I think they pretty much have covered it. There's not much I can say because until you and like the lady said, until you pull the wall down, it's not gonna be I knocked the whole wall down all over. And I had someone I was dating tell me, can you just remove a brick so I can peek through so that I can reach my hand out to you? Just can you get a couple of bricks? We're not gonna worry about the whole wall, but can we just take a couple of them down so that I can see you and I can be there? And that's going to be the overwhelming thing with helping you heal and get ready to trust. It's not going to happen overnight. It doesn't. But if you start taking it down brick by brick, moment by moment, just each individual time. That's my last 2 cents. So I say that to say this. I thank you all. I thank you for being on this exploration with me into love part 2. You all were great. It was very informative, and I think those who are viewing at home, and I think those who and chimed in. This journey we're on, I hope it takes us through many turns and we understand things a whole lot better, and we grow as a people. So thank you to my panel. You guys are wonderful. You have blessed my whole spirit. The balance, the energy, the difference of opinions, we were all able to see what we needed to see. So I hope it was as great for you as it was for me. So same back channel. We're going to do this again next week. And next week, we're going to talk about relationships, and we're going to define that, and we're going to break that down. So if you have something to say, if you have a question, send it to me. If you are somewhere in one of our panel sessions, want to be on, send that message to me. I am author Michelle Warren on Facebook. I love you all. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us. Good night.